Welcome back to another Hype Pseudo video and about Dragonheir Silent Gods, and I am here to present the testing I have done extensively for the last like 2 or 3 days on the test server leading up here to Season 3. I've been testing all the new characters, all the different teams here on the Vortex, and I just want to do a bit of a showcase. This is going to be a shorter video. I'm going to have a longer video detailing these teams in more depth coming up. And that video will have timestamps so you guys can go and check out what team is relevant to you. But overall, I just want to mention the affinity bonus for Season 3 has changed. And we'll take a look at that right here. So we've got Frost and Poison together. We've got Radiant and Fire, and Necrotic and Lightning. And based on the supports that currently are in the game, I would say the winners and losers here are... The winners are, you know, any element paired with Radiant is going to do amazing. There's a lot of amazing supports that Radiant has. So Fire Radiant's doing pretty good. Frost and Poison both have some pretty good supports. Poison having a lot of supports. Frost having some of the best in the game, like Faloja. And then Lightning and Necrotic, unfortunately, they both kind of lack really good supports. They have some good ones, but then it's kind of hard to meet all the different requirements you want on Vortex. You want to have healing, cleansing, attack penalty, defense up, all those things if you can, you know, 3 or 4 of those if you can. And this element, it kind of struggles to get all that. So let's take a look here, and let's take a look at the teams that I was able to test thus far. And I've tested a full 15. I'm out of team slots, so this is as many as I could do. So starting off, this team, I mean, this team is probably gonna get patched or hotfixed or something because this team is busted. This new character, Rook, he does absurd damage, and it's probably not intended. This team does 800 something million, and then when I inspired them and I tested them again, this team did over 2 billion. Like, it is absolutely broken. Keep an eye out for another video. I'm going to be making a video about this team and, you know, going in depth with it. But if you're a whale and you want to spend on the game and you want to be, you know, on the top of the leaderboard, and this doesn't get fixed or changed, then this is going to be the team. I mean, it's basically, the rankings are going to be everyone who has Rook and then everyone who doesn't have Rook below them. That's going to be the rankings for the Vortex. But anyway, this team is absolutely busted. And yeah, it's using, you know, the new corrosion characters with some really good supports that we know about, Ogok and Faloja, which are very, very powerful. I want to, real quick before I go too deep into this, I will mention that I tested all these teams on this weekly buff for the test server. 30% more radiant damage, and also shields are increased by 75%, and healing is reduced by 25%. So all the teams that are radiant, I have done some math to reduce that damage to what it's supposed to be without the buff. But the shielding power, I can't really do math on that. It's kind of hard to figure out how long they would survive without that. So keep in mind that all these teams that are using Faloja are probably maybe overperforming a little bit on survival and are lasting a little longer than they normally would be able to. So keep that in mind here with the rankings that I came up with. So, you know, obviously this is the most broken team. Next up, we have, again, using the same 2 supports, but choosing to use the Lothair team, maximizing 40 poison stack, with extending them with Corrin, and then Lothair just doing all the damage. And again, another amazing team, survives pretty much the same length as this team, but, you know, getting much less damage, only 150 mil. That being still a lot of damage, especially for like last season. 150 million without any inspirations is amazing. Without any weekly buffs increasing our damage, that is an amazing, amazing team. And then next up, we got another variant. So if you don't have Ogok, Rayta can actually bring a lot of damage reduction, especially in a team with poisons, because you're always going to have poisons up. That's 1 debuff. And she brings damage reduction on the passive, and then you can have her do 2 different debuffs, attack penalty, accuracy penalty, and then Witch's Remains counts as another debuff. So you can a lot of the times have 4, you know, often 3, and that's a lot of damage reduction when paired with like Aurelian Vest and the damage reduction from Faloja's ult. So this team... you don't have Ogok healing and giving you unkillable, but you have so much damage reduction, you don't really need any healing. This is, I think, the first team, and this and another variant down here that I'll mention later. These are the first teams that I've ever seen where you don't have any healing in the team, and yet you can survive pretty much, you know, 200-something stacks with no healing. And again, that might be because of the Faloja shield buff for this weekly buff. That might be the reason why that's happening, but it's incredible how long this team can survive with no healing at all. I think we just have a little bit of healing. Actually, I don't think this team has a single source of healing. But yeah, anyway, next we got the good old Ice Blast, you know, one of the top teams from Season 2, still pulling in strong with, you know, again, Ogak, Phalosia being the strongest 2 supports I could put together. And, you know, just, you know, the main 3 legendaries doing their damage. All these teams I've tested on the test server, these are all kind of like optimal champions and optimal gear and artifacts. I'm not trying to do budget because I wanted to get a you know, a baseline of what, you know, the possibilities are. I guess the main thing that I'm not doing that I could have been doing was I'm not doing any inspirations. All these teams have 0 inspirations. It's just the best gear and the best artifacts I could find to put on them, and then, you know, seeing how they perform. Next up, we got Flora. Wild's actually making a comeback here. This new support character, Paladin guy, he can keep attack penalty up basically the whole fight. And so him paired with someone like Acilia, who can heal, cleanse, and use the horn to give us more damage, is a great pairing for 2 supports that keeps the team alive for a good amount of time. And then he also has this awesome battle skill where he makes, or sorry, on the ultimate, he makes someone invincible for 5 seconds. And on auto, it's kind of hard to target it on the people you want it to target onto, but later in the fight, in the later rounds, you can manually have him put this invincibility on your Acilia so she doesn't get one-shot by the Call of Lightning, and that can extend you like a 3 or 4 more rounds. And this 2 support combo, the way I built them, was surviving all the way until around 140, 150 stacks. So similar to what an unkillable team would get to, around 140, 150. So very impressive. And then we've got Dauntless here. Actually, I got 2 variants of Dauntless. I got the variant that is using the full 5 affinity bonus, using the best supports I could come up with. One that cleanses, heals, gives defense up, and one that just does a ton of healing and can give us that horn buff again for the damage bonus. And this team's goal here is just to do the damage as fast as possible because the supports from Lightning and Necrotic are just not able to keep a team alive. You'd have to use 3 supports to really keep a team alive for a long duration, and then you're losing out on so much damage with only using 2 DPS. So this team was just a speed run. We don't survive that long, but we get 90 million damage in pretty fast. And then when swapping to Zephy Ogak and just going unkillable and dropping my affinity bonus, I actually did better, believe it or not. So for pretty much every team that's Lightning Necrotic in Season 3, you're going to be better off just going unkillable. The 5 affinity bonus is not worth running worse supports. You might as well just go Zephy Ogak, get the full 150 stacks. You can build people more aggressively. You can, you know, because you're unkillable, you can go Horn on Ogak, you can go Pipe Organ on Zephy. You could just go for maximum damage. You don't have to build any defenses, and you just get as much damage as you can in 150 stacks, even with only a 3 affinity bonus. But this did better, so, you know, 105 million here. This variant, 90 million only. And then moving down, we've got the rally team here. The best one I came up with was with, you know, Thelendor, using both of these supports to basically boost his damage as high as possible. And again, we're using Acilia and the new Paladin, the new Fire Paladin. I bet I should try to remember his name. Cinerel is his name. And then we've got another version of Rally using Filto instead of Thelendor if you don't have Thelendor. Thelendor's very expensive, plus, you know, the artifact is very expensive. So you could use Filto instead with the flute. And it's, you know, it's worse, but it's not that much worse. We're losing here 12 million, roughly. But it's still a pretty good team, if this is what you got. And then here we've got the new Shadow team. So this guy, this new exclusive, does basically all the damage. I mean, that's kind of the trend for all the new, you know, teams every season, is the exclusives tend to do a majority of the damage, like 70-80% of it. And this guy is doing almost all the damage on this team. And again, we went unkillable because it performed better than when we did 3 supports. So we went 3 supports here to keep this team alive for a long time. We went Zephy, Utior, and Tauren to try and kind of do a similar strategy to Zephy Ogak, but maintaining the affinity bonus. And this team only did 72, whereas when we switched to Zephy Ogak and lose our 5 affinity bonus, we did more. We did 87. And since this guy's doing like almost all the damage, I couldn't think of a 3rd DPS to put in the Shadow team. I tried out Daphne, and she does, when she possesses Ozul, she does increase his damage quite a bit, but she will come out of her ults at random times when you're unkillable or your resing is not up, and she'll just die. So she's kind of unusable. I had a very hard time making her function. I'm sure some people will figure out some timings or something for her, but it seems kind of random and you can't really time her. So she'll just randomly die, and it's kind of unusable. So I had to, you know, just go with 3 supports and try to get as much damage out of Ozul as I could, surviving. This team survives a very long time, but again, only 2 DPS. So here with the Zephy Ogok team, we just needed an aura. This team had no aura, so we put in Garrett. He brings that crit damage aura, and that actually performed the best. He was the best DPS. We also tried a Spalta, who's the other shadow that has a decent aura. Where's she at? Her. And she did not do nearly as well as just putting in Garrett and putting some DPS gear on him. So turns out that not all shadow characters are created equal. Ozul is like the main one you're going to use for damage, and then this epic Taldi, you use him in all the teams because he is able to keep Witch's Remains up permanently. That's the amazing thing about him. He ults about every 10 seconds. He can keep the Witch's Remains up permanently, and that synergizes really well with the new Mythic set that gives you the damage bonus during defense penalty. So that's the Necrotic team. Here we got, oh yeah, I already showcased that. So here we got a similar team to the one I was mentioning up here, using Feloja and Reyta for the damage reduction, but instead we went for like a more budget team. We got Shinna and Girthin. You could also go, you can go Bledin and Girthin, and instead of Stegamuffin, you could go like Eli. Eli keeps that poison permanently up, so that's another debuff, and he brings an attack aura. So that's another option if you want to, you know, downscale this a bit to be more budget, like this version basically. But these are some pretty good teams because they survive a long time, and they're, you know, like this version especially is pretty budget. So last season I made a team which was I think it was Ardrith, Sagamir, and Garius, abusing turn boosting and shielding to like survive to 240 stacks or something like that. And it had the 2 Ice Blast DPS in there, and it was able to get, you know, around 65 million, and that was a relatively budget team. And here again, I've discovered another team that has that same survival potential, surviving to like 240 stacks and using the 2 Ice Blast DPS and, you know, a little bit extra damage here from Eli. But he's mainly here bringing another debuff for Reyta, applying Witch's Remains with his 3-hitting ultimate, and also bringing us that attack aura since this team doesn't have a nice aura. And then you could, you know, again, interchangeably move in Stegamuffin if you had him, Shinna if you had her, and then also you could replace Girthin with Beldel and if you had her. But yeah, that's another option. Then we tried out the Burn team. Burn is not really that great on single target, but I mean, we got 74 million here out of all the, you know, legendaries all fully geared up and using the exclusive artifact and everything. Not bad, but not a winner either. Not really a Vortex team. Not their specialty. And then at the very end of this list, in 15th place, in last place, is Aura. It's kind of a shame. These characters are pretty cool, but we just can't get damage out of them, unfortunately. I think there might be something bugged, similar to how Rook is bugged in being broken and overpowered. These guys are bugged in being weak and underpowered. I don't think their percent HP damage, they do a lot of like targets max HP damage, is really applying on the Vortex because it doesn't know how to calculate since the Vortex doesn't have a health bar. So I think a lot of missed damage is not being calculated because of that. So this team is maybe bugged, and that's why the damage is so low. But as you can see here, 20 million worse than the next best team, which is like a more budget team. So we got all the legendaries here. We're using her with her exclusive artifact. We had to use this epic to apply Witch's Remains because there was no other good options out of the Aura characters that could apply Witch's Remains consistently. But this epic's also decent. You know, she does decent damage. But yeah, this ends up being the best version of the team, but still far below all the others. So that's winners and losers for Season 3 Vortex. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, if they don't patch it, Rook is the go-to that you want to summon. He will pretty much make or break your Vortex team for the whole season. If you get Rook and he stays the way he is now, you're going to be on the top of the leaderboard. And then if you don't have Rook, I mean, you're squabbling for second place down at the, you know, at the bottom with everyone else who has teams like this. So that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope all this testing could be helpful for you guys. Again, like I said, I'll doing a more in-depth video covering these teams extensively. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, thanks, guys. Take it easy. Peace.